Hi, I'm John Valentino, president of John and Bob's. I'm a landscape architect, a landscape contractor, and I'm here with the freshly groomed Chip. He missed yesterday's shoot because he was being groomed, but now he's looking good. And we're at a garden here that is one of my favorite topics, illustrates one of my favorite topics in landscaping. There's a quote that is important to me by a famous landscape architect, Lawrence Halprin, and he said, the challenge for the garden designer shouldn't be to make the garden natural, but to make the garden so the people in it will feel natural. And I think that's a very enlightened quote, and one that we try to incorporate in all the gardens we're involved in. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Chip and I plan to be doing a lot more videos for you. If you like them, please click on like and click on subscribe and click on the bell so that you'll be notified every Sunday when we post our new videos. As we get into it, we can show how it embodies that quote in that it addresses the needs of users, and it impacts our lives and makes it better. And that's the whole idea of making gardens that people feel natural in. The first point is creating space. And your typical, over the years, the typical front garden sometimes gets passed over in terms of thinking it's important at all, and frequently it's just a big front lawn that you walk through to get to the front door. And what we've tried to do is make space within that garden so that it's usable and it's noteworthy and it contributes to everyday life. In this garden we have, even though it's a very small little yard, we have several spaces, almost like an entry courtyard here, that is going to have a couple of benches in it, kind of a whimsical garden with this frog spouting out water. And so we have different materials at it, and we have a space that's very noteworthy from the street, calling out entry. And then in other parts of the garden we have a completely different space where we're growing vegetables. And frequently it's hard to grow vegetables in an attractive way in a front garden. We've used Corten steel planters, raised, and loaded it with John and Bob's blend, and the vegetables took off. And that's with pea gravel paving on decomposed granite. So even though it's a small space, we have these different spaces, and that's really what landscape design and landscape architecture is all about, is creating space. And even in a small garden, that can be done in an interesting way. Another part of making gardens useful and an important part of our lives is interactivity. So trying to make an interactive garden, that's the best terminology I can come up with for it. So a garden that you walk through to experience and use. And in this case, we've accomplished that with really a system of edging and a paving that's very porous, so it's very environmentally friendly, and that water goes right through it and goes to the water table, and that doesn't run off into and have to be taken as storm water. And that is pea gravel on top of decomposed granite, and we compact the pea gravel, make a nice firm surface that gives you a little bit of crunch, but it's not loose, and so it's easy to walk on and firm. And that surrounds these vegetable planters out of Corten steel, the corn I'm standing in front of, and kind of goes as a theme throughout the garden. So interactivity means we walk through it, we use the different spaces in different ways, and it lends to this, the opposite of a traditional what unfortunately has been a traditional design of front gardens, where you have foundation planting lining up big plants right in front of the house that you club into submission because they're getting too tall, and then the rest of it just lawn. So basically it's not interactive. You have one space, one big space that isn't particularly useful. And so what we're doing here is encouraging use. A small lawn that's easy to water and easy to mow, low in maintenance, and then a series of walks and paths around seeding in one spot and a vegetable garden in another. So one of the themes of this garden is our third item, grow your own food. We've got lots of plants here that produce delicious edible food right in this little garden. Infused with John and Bob's blend and penetrate, it does a great job of creating healthy soil so that these things will thrive. I'm standing next to a really interesting cherry tree. It's 3-in-1, so it was grafted on a small site. It's nice to use those kinds of plants because you get different varieties of cherries, and the seasons are or the timing is slightly varied. They don't all ripen at once. So this was just planted a month or two ago, but it's off and running and will produce sweet cherries. And then we have kumquats along the walk, right along the house, dwarf kumquats, and those are really ornamental, attractive, and you can use the kumquats for marmalade. Obviously, we have the vegetable garden. This garden was just completed, and it made it so that he planted his vegetable garden a little late. There's an interesting part of that that's been frustrating to him. The tomatoes he couldn't get planted till May because the garden wasn't finished and the corten steel planters weren't in yet. And tomatoes don't bloom well when it's hot. We'd rather get them planted much earlier, and they also don't pollinate well when it's hot. So you'll see in this case beautiful tomato plants growing like crazy, but not a lot of tomatoes on them and not a lot of flowers. From an edible standpoint, it's the cherries, the vegetables, the kumquats, and the dwarf citrus that make up the main plantings. In this garden, we've got a lot of the energy savings going on with existing trees that do a great job of shading that we obviously treasure and maintain. But then the challenge is to get in enough light to grow everything we want to grow if we want to grow vegetables and stuff. So we don't have many shade trees in this garden because of that. The shade trees were already along the street. So there's a lot of good energy savings already going on. Then we focused on water savings and a low maintenance approach to the garden. And one of the things that we did is come up with a very simple solution for the park strip, which is only 3 feet wide. And that's really simple place to waste water if you don't water it properly. What we did, since it's so narrow and already had existing mature trees in it, is just used the decomposed granite and the pea gravel, and then he planted a few herbs in the middle, and it's watered with drip irrigation, so there's no overspray. We're not spraying out into the road or into the city sidewalk, and it's a very simple, handsome, doesn't draw attention to it, but it's so narrow it's hard to do anything there. In addition to that, we do usually when you look at water conservation, it's recommended to eliminate lawn. In this case, we used a small lawn and watered it very efficiently. So I think you can still use small patches of lawn and water them efficiently and still have very low water using gardens. Because of the shade, we used tall fescue. It's edged with a black steel. By using edging, you have that line that is there forever, and you just maintain that line, and that's important in this garden, which has this very linear design to it. And then all of the plants and all of the vegetable garden are all on drip irrigation. We separated them on separate valves so the garden is watered by itself. That's a good way to be water efficient, because you probably want to water the vegetable garden different than you want to water, say, the boxwood along the lawn. It's water efficient, it's on drip system, lots of different valves so we can control the water where we want it, and we're not throwing water in the street or on the city sidewalks.
Hey there, friends. Thanks for watching our video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click on the bell. If you enjoyed this video, have any questions, or just want to say hi, let us know in the comments below. Want to learn more about our products? Then head over to our website, www.johnandbobs.com.